while we get ready. Hello, 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 hello. I feel like I should be playing some hype music, but welcome. Thank y'all for being here today. Thank you to those of you who are here, those of you who registered and had conflicts. I totally get it. Life is lifing. Um, and welcome to those who will be watching the replay. This session is about why you are not passing the CPA exam. And I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to tune in and take something from this. So this will be available as a replay in the Audacious Accountants community. A couple of administrative things before we hop in. You can raise your hand if you have a question or a comment. You can also drop things in the chat. I put a promo code in the chat if you have been in the public section of the Audacious Accountants community and you want to join the premium section for CPA candidates or as an accounting professional. So real quick, my name is Nikki. I'm a CPA. I love accounting. I love to do accounting, talk about it, teach it, write it, all that good stuff. And my career has hopped back and forth between large publicly traded matrix organizations and the private equity startup type of companies and everything in between. And that was by design. I was intentional about the career moves I made because working in accounting for a large company is a totally different experience from working in a startup environment. And I wanted to see and do that accounting from all sides. So being a CPA exam coach was actually something that was not on my career to-do list. It happened really as a result of all of the questions, all the emails, all the messages on LinkedIn I got from people after I passed my exam saying, hey, how did you pass FAR? Or what did you do with audit? And I can't seem to pass reg. And I started out just answering questions on LinkedIn back and forth. Then people found my email and started emailing me and screenshotting me questions. Like I thought A was the answer, or I thought the first one was the answer, but it wasn't. And I don't know what I did wrong. And so I felt like there's really a need for CPA exam prep beyond books and videos and flashcards and mnemonics. And more importantly, there's a need for CPA exam coaching for future CPAs of color. I'm not even going to go into the dismal statistics of the number of Black and Brown CPAs. It's still less than 1%. And me becoming a CPA exam coach was I shouldn't say was, but is my contribution to the industry to increase the number of Black CPAs. And I love to do this work. If y'all have ever heard that question of what would you do in your career if money wasn't an issue and all bets were off, I would absolutely teach CPA exam prep and do coaching all day long because I love it. I couldn't say that when I was a candidate. Hindsight is always 2020, as we know, but just wanted to throw that out there. And one more thing before we start talking about the CPA exam, I wanted to share this recent experience I had where I was invited to brunch by a group of female CPAs. We had a great time. We had some really good food. We shared business tips. We were 2 or 3 mimosas in by 10 o'clock in the morning, and we enjoyed some gut busting laughs. It was first time I had met these ladies in person, and it felt like we were all old friends who were just catching up. It was such an amazing time. The energy, the vibes, it was amazing. And actually when we left, the restaurant, we were that table. We were that loud table. We were laughing. We were loud talking. We were toasting. We were just having a good time. And when we left, the table behind us, I looked over and said, "I'm sorry if we were loud because we were just having a good time." And the lady's like, "I was wondering what y'all are talking about because it seemed like y'all had a great time. Like I wanted to be at your table." And it was funny to hear or witness people who were watching us. But I share that because being a CPA is more than the credential or the job or whatever your reasons are for pursuing it, right? It's also about the networking, the community that you become a part of outside of business. There's a community of people who want to see you win. They support you, they cheer you on, and those are the people that you can vent to about tax season or about quarter end close or year end close or working with the auditors who keep asking you the same three questions. But it's more than getting a license to go to work or to start a business. It really is a community, and I am super grateful for that community. But today, I'm talking about the obstacles that get in your way as you pursue your CPA license. And there's more than enough conversations about the exam content, memorizing stuff, looking for easy ways to skirt around the learning. Let's just be real and talk about that. That's a whole nother conversation. But today, I want to move away from the course materials, the exam questions for a minute, and explore why you are not passing the CPA exam. When you get that fail notification on score release day, it's not always because you didn't know something, that you didn't know what was being asked. I remember studying for topics that showed up on my exam and I couldn't figure out the right answer. Even though I knew the topic, I remembered studying for the topic, I could not get to the right answer. It could have been exam jitters. Maybe the question was posed in a way that wasn't familiar to me, because with course materials, you know that you can stare at a question or see a practice question long enough that you start to know the answer because you've seen it so many times, not because you understood what was being asked. So when I work with candidates in my coaching program, one of the questions I ask them is, those who have failed or taken multiple exams, one of the things I ask is like, why are you not passing the exam? What do you think is keeping you from passing the exam? And there's so many different reasons I hear, but they all fall into similar categories. And they're usually, I'm distracted, I'm not motivated, I'm too busy at work, I have kids, so I don't have time. And once you fall into that space of overwhelm, it's tough to dig yourself out. So let's talk about the first one. You're not passing the CPA exam because you're distracted. So you decided you wanted to do this, but life is lifing, life is happening, and the CPA exam isn't a priority. You working, you got kids, you want to maintain your social life, hang out with your friends. Studying for the CPA exam is something that comes after all of that. So people who operate like that are probably studying without a notice to schedule. You don't have an exam date in mind, and you're probably going along thinking, once I learn the content, once I figure it out, once I feel ready, that's when I'm going to get serious, or that's when I'm going to schedule my exam. But that leads you down a path to nowhere. Studying for the CPA exam has to become a part of your life. But here's the thing, though. I know that sounds like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? Here's the thing. It doesn't have to be your whole life. It doesn't. And it doesn't have to be forever. I've told my candidates since the beginning, when I figured this out the hard way, you're making a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. Most of you are, sorry, my my leg randomly started itching. I don't know why. Um, but some of y'all, a lot of y'all are candidates right now. You're either actively studying for the exam, you're thinking about studying for the exam. Maybe you're here in this session because you've been studying and you failed the same exam multiple times. So something isn't working. You're on the verge of giving up. And I will say, I recognize some of y'all names from the registration list, and I know that y'all have been rocking with me for a long time. I absolutely appreciate that. But if you've been around here for 2 years or more, that means you haven't passed all 4 sections yet, at least not at the same time. That's what I told myself when I was a candidate. Like, well, technically, I did. I have passed all 4 sections. I just didn't get all the credits at the same time within the 18 months. So you're distracted. I get it. Life is lifing. Life is happening. There's always something else. There's always something going on. There's always a reason to not do it. But fast forward to you becoming a CPA. You're going to work for your employer, maybe starting with your own company. And actually, let's start with those of you who are studying to get your license because your job depends on it, because your promotion or you getting to that next level is contingent upon you passing the CPA exam. My hope is that your employer is sponsoring your CPA exam prep, but also providing you with the space and the grace to study, to take time off, and to do so without feeling guilty or feeling like you still have to get all this work done. For those of you who, or before I go there, if getting the CPA license is something that you have to do for your career progression, I would hope, like I said, that your employer's paying for it. If they're not, please have a conversation with them, because once you become a CPA, they will get the benefit of you being a CPA just as much as you will. And so they should be making an active investment in your professional development. But for those of you who you want to start your own business or you're studying for your CPA license because it's something that you want and it's not necessarily for a specific job. Like me, that was my situation. Most of the time when you need the CPA for your job, it's either public accounting or something along that realm. And for me, I wanted the CPA license because I felt like I don't want to be an accountant and not be a CPA. I was kind of over being in that space of I've made it so far, and I felt like my career progression was capped until I got my CPA license. So in those situations, it might be things like your employer doesn't even know you're studying for the exam. You're studying at work. I got my dual screens up right now, and most of us have those dual screens at work, and you have your work, your journal entries, whatever you're working on one screen, and you logged into your course materials on the other screen. I know it. I've been there. I've done that. I'm sorry if y'all think I done let the cat out the bag and told on y'all, but it is what it is. But you're also probably taking time off for the exam, and you might be getting side-eyed or questioned about the days that you take off, because it might be during close or it might be during the time where the team needs you. And if you're studying and your employer doesn't know, you're also paying out of pocket for all of your course materials, your coaching programs, your exam fees. So then it becomes a situation where you start to realize, like, okay, is this company prioritizing my professional development? You start feeling the way. Your work performance declines because you might feel like, I have to pass this exam. Like, I can't keep doing the retakes. I need to be done with this exam. I'm ready for this to be over. And then that becomes your priority. And then work becomes second, right? So I went through some of this, and as I'm talking, my mind is going back to some of those moments. So even if that's your situation at work, you still need to have a conversation with your manager and let them know what's going on. Because first, this is about you. This is about you. And this is an opportunity for you to learn or get practice in having difficult or uncomfortable conversations. There is so much to be learned from taking the CPA exam that's far beyond the accounting aspect of it. Tell your boss what's going on, that you're studying for the exam. And even if you want to go as far as like sharing your exam schedule with them or your timeline so that they know days that you might need to be out of the office. And having that conversation can go one of two ways. So your manager might congratulate you, celebrate your efforts, offer ways to help, or actually it'll go one of three ways. That's the first one. The second one, your manager might congratulate you, celebrate those efforts, and then it ends there. Like while they're happy for you elevating your career and all of this, they could care less because the concern is that you get the job done. And the CPA might not be a requirement for the job that you're in. So they're really like, okay, cool, good for you, but I still need you to get this stuff done. The third way it could go is getting a response, like I said, that the CPA isn't necessary and they're really going to give you a hard time about trying to take off work, about trying to do different things. And I've dealt with some of those scenarios. I have had sessions, group sessions and private sessions where candidates have shared similar experiences. Like, I don't even think my employer cares about what I'm doing. And I don't know how to feel about that. But do it. Have the conversation so that you can stop worrying about what they might say, what they might do, so that you can, again, learn how to have those tough conversations. And also, which is probably one of the important things, is so that you know where you stand with this company. So if they're telling you the CPA isn't necessary, they're not providing you with the flexibility to study and test, that would help you decide what you're going to do once you become a CPA. Because if you get your CPA and you do all this work and you put all this effort into getting it, and it's not even valued at this company, then staying at this company as a newly licensed CPA is not the best option. So if anything, knowing where you stand now so that you know what your next career move will be later is the biggest benefit that you can get out of having that conversation. Um, okay, so I was going to try and see if there is any questions or thoughts in the chat. I see some other people have joined. Hey, Don. Um, hey, y'all. I'm not trying to see who's all in here, but whoever is in here, thank y'all for being here. And again, if you have any questions, any thoughts that you want to talk about or you want me to answer, feel free to drop them in the chat. But that was the first thing. You are distracted. There's too much going on, which is why you're not passing the CPA exam. The next reason, which I think we all can relate to, I certainly could when I was a candidate, is that you're unmotivated. Like you're studying day and night, you're wondering how you're going to learn all of this stuff. You might be halfway through a chapter and you have several other chapters to get through. Your exam day is approaching and you were just not there. Like your mind is stuck on the now versus what could be after you pass the exam. You'd rather be doing all these other things and hoping that this minimal effort will get you to that 75. And the thing with being unmotivated is that your mind is so stuck on the discomfort of the current situation that you can't see what's ahead of you or you can't see what's around the corner. So like I just talked about with work, there's those times where we'll try to put studying first and work second, but then there's time where the work has to be first. We're accountants and there's rigor and it's very deadline driven around the work that we do. And having these deadlines, having these deliverables, these reports, and all these things that you have to turn in, you have to put studying on the back burner. And I think we all know that month end, quarter end is actually a big struggle point. You might have extra work to do year end when the auditors come in. It's just always something going on. The work hours are long and you are so exhausted from work that the last thing you want to do is work all day and then study all night. Brain is fried and you're probably not even in the right mood or the right headspace to even try to learn CPA exam content. So this is why it's important to have a timeline to map things out in advance so that when those busy times come at work, or even if you feel like, you know what, I need a break from everything and I want to go take a vacation, you can account for those moments, those days in your timeline. And one thing I want to share before I move on to the third point is that taking the CPA exam can be mentally taxing. It is mentally taxing. Let me say, I'm not going to say it can be, it is. And as you study, you get ready for exam day, you take your exam, that waiting period between walking out of the testing center and waiting for score release, take care of yourself during those times. I had never experienced anxiety or stress like I did when I was studying for the CPA exam. In fact, I didn't even know what anxiety was, and I didn't know it was a thing until I was studying for the CPA exam, because I just have this thing in me where I don't let things get to me to where it makes me uncomfortable, uneasy, or feeling defeated, which I felt a lot as a candidate. So get your rest, drink your water, breathe, take brain breaks. Don't try to absorb 50, 60, 70 pages of content in one sitting. Make sure that you take care of yourselves. I cannot emphasize that enough. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. So, how did you manage studying and working full time? The way I managed, I'll be honest, I was not doing my best work at work when I was studying for the CPA because of what I just mentioned. My priority was I had passed, failed, lost credit, went through this cycle of studying for the CPA. And that's how I was feeling. It's like, I'm tired of going through this. I don't want to keep torturing myself. I know I can pass this exam if I just like double down on my time and my effort. So I was that person. I had my dual screens, I had my journal entries and my account recs and my work on one screen, and I was logged into my course materials on the other. And it impacted my work. And that was why I ended up having the conversation. So the things that I'm saying to y'all right now are things that I did. I had a conversation with my manager to say, hey, I know I'm not doing my best work. I have some other things going on. And I told them about me studying for the CPA exam. And the reaction was, oh, congrats, Nicole. Super helpful, or super happy for you that you're doing that. But it wasn't relevant. They felt like what I was doing wasn't relevant to my career. And so I said, okay, I know how to move accordingly once I get my license. But when I figured out that that wasn't sustainable for me, like I don't want to be that person doing mediocre work. And I said, this is not sustainable for me. So I literally made a calendar, printed out a calendar in Excel, marked off the days where I knew I had to do month end close. And then those last 2.5, 3 weeks, I'll say maybe 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of the month where it tends to be a little bit lighter, I would take time off work. I would use my lunch breaks to walk away from my desk. I had my flashcards. I would go eat my lunch, go through my flashcards. I knew that I couldn't do like a practice exam or something too heavy while I was at work. So I brought some things with me to work that I knew I could just get a couple things in, learn some concepts. I think my flashcards were so crucial. They went everywhere with me. When my kids had practices, I would be in the bleachers going through my flashcards. And so I just had to make the workday work for me to say, I know that I'm studying for this, but I don't want to be doing mediocre work. And so I I was super diligent with my time and made those flashcards myself. I think I might have had the mobile app for my course materials on my phone, and I leveraged every lunch hour, commuting back and forth home. I went to some extremes, y'all. I stopped driving to work and I started taking public transportation because that was 2 extra hours where I could be on the train, looking at something on my laptop, going through those flashcards. I had to figure out how to make it work because I wanted to be done. Um, do you help with creating a study plan? I absolutely just started doing that. I didn't realize that was such a need. That's something that a lot of people have been asking for. It's like, hey, I know I want to pass and I got 18 months and I'm trying to figure this out. So I can certainly help creating a study plan. I might do a group session where we sit back and talk through that. But yes, Don, stay tuned. I'll send some info on helping to create a study plan. Um, Motivation is a big issue. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I said that study plan is so important so that not only do you not get burned out from studying, but also so that you can work in time to take a break, to be with your family, to go out of town. I'm sitting here now thinking about what I need to be doing for the next few months as far as going home to see my family, taking a vacation, taking a break just from work and adulting in general. So super, super important. How how did the virtual classroom work? Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. The way the virtual classroom works is I have taken all of the questions, thoughts, comments, concerns that I've gotten from candidates over the last almost 5 years that I've been doing this to say, what do candidates need? I didn't want to create a community of the things I felt like candidates needed. I wanted candidates to tell me, what do y'all need? What is best for y'all? So there are CPA exam practice exams for each section in the virtual classroom. And the way I did it was if y'all have current course materials with some of the bigger providers, y'all know that y'all get this test bank and these lessons, these PDF lessons, these on demand videos. And they give you in the test bank, you get like these thousands of questions and they give you the answer and they give you the explanation. But my thing was, I want y'all to understand accounting. So I took those same exam questions from the AICPA and I gave you the answers, but I want you to give me the explanation because my goal is I need to know as a CPA exam coach that you understand the concepts, not that you can just say, oh, okay, the first one is the right answer, but do you understand why that first choice is the right answer? And do you understand why the other three are the wrong answers? Because I could care less about giving y'all 10,000 practice questions because if you really slice and dice the questions, you can take one question and create 7, 8, 9, 10 different questions. So my thing is, do you understand the concept? If you saw this actual question or simulation on your exam, would you be able to do it? As opposed to panicking to say, I don't know. I don't remember. I tried to memorize and don't know what I memorized. So I really dig deep into how you answer multiple choice questions. A lot of those multiple choice questions also become the simulations. Simulations are just extensive multiple choice questions, right? They give you a scenario. You have to fill in the blank, do a calculation, probably do some matching back and forth, record some journal entries. And so my aim is to make sure you understand accounting. So there are the retired CPA exam questions. I'm a course provider with the AI CPA, just like any other Becker, Wiley, Surgeon, whatever. But I also have accountability sessions each month and what I call the CPA candidate hot seat. So each session, two candidates get 30 minutes to talk about what their issues are, if they want to share specific questions they're having problems with. And it's for you to get that direct one-on-one coaching that you need beyond just, hey, read this chapter, watch this video, do these questions. I want to get y'all ready for the exam, all 4 sections the right way. I want you to be prepared and confident on exam day. I want to help you figure out how you apply for your license, because that's a whole nother experience and a lot of things that people don't tell you that you need and that you need to know. But also, once you get your license, how do I start my career as a new CPA? What do I do? I have this prestigious credential. How do I reap the benefits of it? Renegotiating your salary or going to a company that's going to pay you what you're worth. How to start your business if you want to get your CPA license in order to start your tax practice or start your bookkeeping business or whatever it is that you want to do. I am also going to invite some of my CPA friends to the sessions because accounting is an umbrella. And then there's so many other things that you can do underneath that umbrella. Like me, I felt like initially, I wanted to start my CPA firm and do bookkeeping and virtual CFO and taxes for business owners. And then it pivoted to I'm a CPA exam coach and I help student athletes figure out the tax impact when they get these NIL deals, these contracts, these name, image, and likeness deals. I started creating content for other accounting firms during tax season, for example, or I have a client right now who they're trying to build a bookkeeping course for people who are new to the business and want to figure out how to start their business. They're like, hey, I want to create this course, but I'm struggling with how to create the chapters and the modules and the examples. And so that's something I love to do. I've combined my love of accounting and writing to create a whole nother revenue stream. I have a friend who works in governmental accounting. I have a friend who worked in public accounting and then she left public and started her own firm. And now her sole focus, her niche is expatriate tax. So if you think about this environment where work has become global and hybrid and people are going to other countries but still working for their companies, they don't often think about the tax impact. There's a friend I have who all she does is tax and she's so good at it and that's all she wants to do. So I want to be able to give y'all the CPA exam prep to help you as a candidate, but also the guidance and the community that you need as you become a new CPA. So I want y'all to be able to see the different aspects of accounting. If you say, hey, I want my CPA license so I can move up in public and become a partner. I have a friend who's a CPA and she's a partner at one of the big 4 firms. And so this is all things I learned as a candidate. And then shortly after, when I figured out what took me so long, what I was lacking and what are the things I felt like would have helped me get over the hump, is having those mentors, those who can talk to me and understand where I've been and help me get to where I wanted to go. So it's a little bit of everything. And the thing I encourage when people join is if you see something or if you're not seeing something that you need, let me know, because this community is based on need and it's based on what's lacking. I get it. The bigger course reviewers are giving you the books and the 10,000 questions and all of that. When I saw a test bank with 10,000 questions, I couldn't get excited about that. Like, it made me think, how in the entire hell am I going to get through 10,000 questions and my exam is 7 weeks away? So I try to make it simple. I want y'all to understand accounting. understand the concepts at the foundation, because once you understand the concepts, you can answer any question, any simulation, write any memo, regardless of the format that the examiners give it to you in. If you know the topic, it doesn't matter how it is, if it's an MCQ, if it's a sim, or whatever it is. So that's my end goal, to make sure y'all understand accounting and that you can leverage the benefits and the opportunities that come with being a CPA. So Don, hopefully that answered your question. It was a super long-winded answer, but I wanted to be thorough and really inclusive of what's in there. The third and final thing I want to talk about, as far as why you're not passing the CPA exam, you're probably not passing because you're trying to pass an exam. And that's the point, Nikki. I know, I get it. But like I just said, the point is to learn accounting, because what's the point of passing the exam in that moment, but then when it comes time to go to work and do that actual thing, you don't know how to do it? So, real quick story, I was working for a company as the controller. I had the general ledger team, the AP team, and the payroll team reporting to me. On my GL team, I had I think I had five accountants on my team. One of them was a CPA. The one who was a CPA could not reconcile the bank accounts. The one who was a CPA had the biggest struggle with month-end close, with her journal entries being right, with understanding what was going on. And I share that not as a knock on her, but I share that because just because you have the credential does not make you a stellar accountant or a good accountant. And that was her thing. She struggled through the exam. And when she passed, it was like, okay, I got my license, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And instead of her saying that up front to me, it showed in her work. Like, okay, this reconciliation is not right. These are not even the right source documents. Like, how did you even make this balance was my question. And again, not a knock on her, but there's also some culpability on the company's end to say, how do you onboard people when they come into this company and into this group? Because 99.9% of the moves that a company makes has an accounting impact. And so it's up to the accounting team to know what's going on, how the company makes money, how they pay vendors, what is going in and out of the bank accounts. So that if you have that foundational information, the accounting part becomes easy. But her thing was she didn't even know how the company operated, how the company made money. And she's trying to force things to work and plug in numbers, which a plug makes any accountant cringe. And so don't be that person that passes the exam and you can't even do accounting in real life. I'm gonna leave that there. The other thing I'm thinking about is these Facebook groups and the CPA candidate group chats, where these posts are all about people coming from their exam, and they'll talk about, just last night I was online and one of those groups popped up in my timeline, and the message was somebody saying they just left their BEC exam, talking about what was on there, what was tested, what the simulation was like. And that's actually a violation of the statement that you agree to on that first screen before you take your exam. So for those of you who have ever sat for a section of the exam, or if you plan to, before you can start the first testlet, you have to acknowledge that you will not disclose what's on the exam. And there's a bunch of other things that you need to read and understand. And I think that people get so anxious or so caught up in the exam itself that they either forget or ignore the fact that you are not supposed to disclose what's on your exam, that is a violation, and you can actually be disqualified from getting a license if you do that. Why am I saying that? Because too many times candidates look to other candidates' experiences to adopt as their own. Like I took audit, BEC, and FAR 3 times. I took REG 4 times. I realized after the fact, I took REG 4 times because there was something on that exam that I was blatantly missing. And I was beating myself up like, how did I miss this obvious thing on my exam, which really contributed to me failing and having to retake it. There's this misconception that somebody who just left a testing center has all the answers for everybody, and that whatever they went through and whatever they're expecting is going to be the same experience that you're going to have. The reality is there are no two exams that are alike, at least for the time being. I'll get to CPA evolution in a second, but you can be in the same testing center sitting right next to somebody on the same day, taking the same section of the exam, and y'all are going to have two different exams. And I say that because focus less on what's being tested and how much governmental is on FAR and what they could ask on the simulation, and focus on learning the content. And of course, if I amplify this problem about why you're not passing, I have to bring you some solutions. So if you are that distracted CPA candidate, that unmotivated CPA candidate, if your employer doesn't know that you're studying, here are some things that you should and really need to start doing right now. The first thing, take a deep breath. It's a lot going on, life in general, but the CPA exam only complicates that. So take a deep breath, get organized, figure out what your exam timeline is going to be. And based on what I'm seeing in these chats, we need to have a subsequent conversation and probably a working session about how to put your study plan together, from getting your NTS, picking an exam date, figuring out whichever section you're taking, BEC, audit, reg, FAR, but figuring out, okay, I have my NTS. When do I want to take my exam? What other credits do I have for other sections? And when is my 18-month window up? So that you can work backwards and figure out, this is how much time I have to study for this section. Even if you need to bake in a buffer and say, if I fail, this is how much time I want to take to do a retake. So it can get complicated. It can get really deep. Like when I was studying and I was tired of failing, I put out all the stops and did everything. And so I want to share all of that with y'all so that y'all can avoid some of the missteps I had to make. But we're going to do a separate session about putting your study plan together. The other thing, remind yourself of your why. Why are you even doing this? Why are you even torturing yourself? Like I used to ask myself, what is it about this career path that you've chosen that has you motivated to do this? Sometimes that gets lost in the fail score notifications, in the overwhelm with the practice exams and trying to get everything done. But remember your why and why you're doing this in the first place. Seek the help, seek the guidance, whether that's a mentor who understands what you're going through, a coach, a peer, a coworker, your friends and family. I'll say for me, I love my friends and family, but when it came to me studying for the CPA exam, they were not my go-to people because they couldn't relate to what I was going through. And even when I was trying to explain, like they knew I was studying for something, they didn't really know what it was. And so I think a lot of them were under the impression of you take this exam one time and it's done. But we all know you have to pass all 4 of those sections. You might fail one, lose credit for another. And so when they would say, are you still studying for that thing or that exam? Trying to explain to them, like, I had 3 credits and I was 1 credit away, but then I failed far again and I lost credit for the other 2. Like that's just too much energy and it's not even worth trying to get them to understand it. So for me, it was important to talk to other accountants, talk to people who were already CPAs who knew what that struggle was like, and just needing somebody just to talk you back into your greatness is super important. So definitely seek out the help and the guidance. I'm always happy to have a conversation and talk through things. I have my group coaching sessions. I have private sessions. They are not free, but at the same time, I still like to make myself available for 20 minutes or so to help talk a candidate through some things. So I don't have the link right now, but I'll follow up with it where I do have I do like 20-minute CPA candidate sessions that are free just to help you talk through things and figure it out. Um, and get excited, not about your current situation as a CPA candidate, but about where you're going. I love being a CPA for so many reasons. And if this is what you want to do, as a career, this is not something that you should be feeling stressed out about, that you should be feeling defeated before you even get started. It's time to get excited. It's not all stress and frustration. And the last thing I'll say that I've probably said ad nauseum is you need to learn accounting, period. You have to learn accounting if you desire to really make the most of being a CPA. A couple things about um, and I'll answer more questions after this, but a couple things about upcoming events, CPA exam coaching sessions. CPA evolution is on the way. And I'm going to talk about that in the next session, what CPA evolution actually is, how it will change the CPA exam as we know it, and how it impacts the accounting industry and your career. That is going to be an on-demand session that you can watch at your leisure during a study break. I had a lot of people said, hey, I want to register for this session, but I have a conflict. My kid has soccer, all these other things. I get it. I actually have to finish this session and then go run my kids around. So that's why I'm going to make this session available as a replay. Also, CPA Evolution will be available on demand, as well as the other public sessions that I'll make available as replays for you to watch as your schedule permits. So I mentioned the public sessions because not all of the coaching sessions are public. The private group sessions are where we talk about specific CPA exam content, exam taking strategies, how to plan your next career move as a CPA. You can also opt into the one-on-one coaching sessions where we go deeper into CPA exam prep, especially for a lot of people who book those sessions are like, look, I've taken FAR twice now and I can't seem to pass. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? What do I need to do? So we might do some screen sharing, walk through some actual questions, let you work through the questions. I try to make those working sessions because I want them to be super fruitful and valuable for you as a candidate. And a little bit more about the community. So the virtual classroom is a space inside of the Audacious Accountants community. It's a place online that I created for accounting professionals, accounting students, CPA candidates to come together for networking, to learn accounting fundamentals for both your job and for the CPA exam, to help you figure out how to do your job better. I have some templates in there for writing SOPs, templates to do account recs, and really a lot of the things that I struggled with as a new accountant. There's some accounting departments where things get done, all the institutional knowledge is in somebody's head. So if you want to figure out how month-end close works, even if you want to, as a professional, step up your game at work and say, hey, I have an idea about how we can do our recs better or how we can shorten close by a day or two. I've taken all that stuff, put it into the content library. I update the content each month. And I also want it to be a space where accountants can be professionally vulnerable. We go through things at work and we may not feel like the manager or coworker are the best people to talk to about certain things. And the audacious accountants community is this judgment-free zone to get the guidance that you need and have the conversations that you need to have. So I did put a promo code in the chat for those of you who want to sign up for the CPA exam virtual classroom. And again, the coaching sessions there are held monthly. We talk about the CPA exam. For the accounting professionals, there is a signature program called the Career Combos Experience, hashtag Career Combos Experience. It's a 10-week course designed to help you elevate your career and really find the job that loves you back. And so we go from refreshing your resume, interview prep, the actual interview itself, what questions to ask, negotiating for everything that you want, all the way up to your first 30, 60, 90 days on the job. So the link is join.nickwinstonCPA.com, where you can learn more about those things in the community. And we have a few minutes left. Let me see what is happening in the chat. How often does a group meet? Once a month. I'm debating about that because I almost feel like, do I need to make it bi-weekly? I'm open to y'all suggestions, but I felt like, okay, maybe once a month would work. Maybe bi-weekly would work. Does that work with everybody's schedule? That's something that I'm open to either maybe increasing it to twice a month, just so every candidate can have a chance to get in the hot seat and talk about what their specific issues are. So right now it's once a month, but I'm thinking about doing maybe twice a month. Any tips for audit? I struggle with all cycles. I struggle with audit too. I've struggled with audit since undergrad. I didn't even like my undergrad audit course. The thing with audit is, and the thing that helped me is I went and got an actual audit report. I found a public company, went on either their investor relations site or the SEC's website, and I went to an actual audit report. I needed to see what it looked like, what type of format it was, what terminology they were using, who they were directing the audit report to, and what was the order of the paragraphs. Because these are all things that can be tested on the exam. They could easily give you a excerpt from an audit report and as a simulation and say what's missing, or say how should this paragraph be worded, or if you add an emphasis of matter paragraph, for example, what should it say? So I started there, but I also took a step back because I knew this was not my area. I knew this was not my zone of genius. Now, if we're talking about FAR or BEC, yeah, I felt like I knocked those out of the park. But audit was not, and still is not, one of my favorite things to do, which is why I've never done public accounting. But understanding what you're doing, excuse me, understanding what you're doing. So what an auditor is doing is providing an independent opinion on whether or not the financials that a company has published is in accordance with GAAP and the auditing standards. So what does that mean? Okay, what are we going to be auditing? What is the scope of the things that we're going to be auditing? How do we assess what's our materiality threshold and what the audit risk needs to be? What kind of conversations do we need to have with management, with the board of directors, with the audit committee, with external parties, whether it be a bank, a customer, a vendor, and how do I make sure that the information that I've gathered is telling me what I need, and how do I validate this? So that's the evidence gathering, that's validating that evidence. And then what happens when you get to a point where you feel like, okay, I've done all of my due diligence, I have the information that I need, and what is my conclusion? What is my opinion about this company? Whether it's unqualified, qualified, adverse, what's the other one? Going concern. I worked, I'm not gonna say that, but I worked for a company that was a going concern, and I've never seen that in practice. I've seen it in the books, I've seen it on the exam, but to work for a company where it's like, you know that the ship is sinking and you still have to get the work done, that is a crazy thing. But I learned a lot, and I learned it pretty quickly. But yeah, start with looking for your favorite company, whether that's a Target. I was tutoring a candidate for audit, and her favorite company was Nike. And I said, go get Nike's annual report and scroll down to the auditor's report, and see what that looks like, and see what they're talking about, and understand what that audit report means, who it's going to, and what it's telling you. Um, Another big thing that tripped me up with audit was the subsequent events, and what the auditor's responsibility is after you issue that report. Like, when does the auditor stop being responsible for that report? So there's also a I have in the public section of the Audacious Accountants, there's a workbook that has 4 or 5 practice questions on audit. And I wrote out the questions and what the answer was. And then I gave some detailed explanations about why the right answer is right, why the wrong answers were wrong, and then some takeaways about how you can use what you've learned from those questions to help you prepare for the rest of audit. And then whatever course materials you're using, make sure that you go through those practice questions. And really with audit, I think working through those simulations, even if you are like, I haven't gotten through this much content, just start with those simulations to get a feel for what they look like and the type of things that they can ask you. And that'll really help reinforce what you learn as you go through the chapters, the videos, etc. Have a couple more minutes. Any last thoughts, questions, concerns? I watched a few YouTube videos on some cycles. I'm still confused. I kind of feel like you're not actually doing the process. It's hard to understand. Okay. As you're studying for audit, send me an email. I want to see exactly what you're struggling with. And if I can help you with one of those struggle points, you should be able to take those tips and apply them to other sections. So if there's a question you're stuck on or a concept that you're studying on, send me an email. My email is, I feel like if I give this out, my email is going to go crazy. But CPA exam at winstoncpagroup.com. CPA, let me make it easier. Just put it right here. Send me an email if there's a specific topic you're struggling with, or there's a question or a simulation that you're struggling with, and I'll put together some notes to help talk you through it, and then we can go from there. 60 seconds. Any more questions, concerns, thoughts, feedback? Jesus, are there questions raised? We might have to go over, because I don't know how this, I don't know why it won't let me see if somebody's question is up. If you have a hand up, and you're welcome. If you have a hand up or you have a question that you want to come off mute and ask, definitely do that. But if there's any questions I didn't get to, I'll recap it in the email when this replay comes out. So we are at time. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for the engagement. I love doing this because I had a not so good experience as a candidate. And so I know how y'all are feeling right now. I know how much you just want to be done. Getting a 74. I got a 74 and I was about to pay a fee to get my exam rescored. And I mean, it's a lot, but I'm telling y'all, it's not as hard as some people make it seem. And a lot of the CPA exam and really accounting as a career path is about knowing what's going on. But even if you don't know what's going on, being able to do the research and being able to figure it out, because accountants, nobody said accountants have all the answers, and that's not an expectation. But as long as you know where to go to find it, whether it's the codification or a gap or even going to a peer, I've gone to people in the industry like, hey, I'm working with this particular situation, how do you think I should approach this? Or um just trying to figure things out. You don't have to know every single thing, but at least have the audacity to be able to figure it out, which is part of why I named my community the Audacious Accountants. So I look forward to seeing y'all again next month. I would love for y'all to join the virtual classroom, and I will certainly make sure y'all know when the conversation comes out about CPA evolution. And I'm going to put a public event. Do I want to make it public? I'm going to put an event on the calendar so we can talk about maybe do a working session to create a study plan. So thank y'all for being here, for rocking with me as usual. If you haven't, check out the CPA exam series of the Working Mamas podcast. There's a bunch of CPA exam resources on my website, winstoncpagroup.com/CPA exam. I'm on LinkedIn probably every day. So yeah, that's it. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. See y'all soon. Happy studying.